name is Marc Grigoroff, Marc X Grigoroff. The X is for Xavier, so many people ask me that. I'm from the US, but I've lived in Singapore for almost 11 years. I'm 53 years old, and this is my first feature film, Salawati. The inspiration for the film is very specific. There was an incident a few years ago in Singapore, where a group of friends were swimming at one of the reservoirs here. One of the boys got in trouble and started to drown, and a girl who was with this group ran up and asked several people to help, and people just walked by and refused to acknowledge her. And I think eventually someone did go in and try to save the boy, but it was too late. He drowned, and that sort of apathy toward your fellow human being really disturbed me. Now, it's not a Singaporean thing, it's a human condition, because the same thing has happened in the US, but it disturbed me a lot, and I carried around this sort of anger and frustration inside me. And then when I started to write the screenplay, I wasn't exactly sure what my subject was. That was my point. That was where I started. I started with that incident, and then I created a fictional story around it. But one of the reasons I found the process very cathartic and at the same time honest was I used this incident, and I used the actual feelings I had about it. The name Salawati has always stood out to me because it is the first person Malay person I got to know well was Salawati. And because we worked together, she was a radio producer, and we worked only in a professional capacity. But her name was Wati, or we called her Wati, and then she gave me her business card and it said Salawati Mod. And I loved the name Salawati. For me, for my ears, being a Westerner, I don't know what it is, but Salawati is such a lyrical sounding name. It's also the name of an island in Indonesia as well. I started writing, I think, in late 2005. And being a writer, I learned a long time ago, your first draft sucks. And so does your second, and your third, and your fourth. And I have a tendency to rewrite. I like the process of rewriting, because once you get everything written the first time, the honing process, for me, it's a lot easier. The giving birth to the first draft is that's the hardest thing. But rewriting is nice to see, So I spend a lot of time rewriting. I think there are at least 36 drafts. Is one of the lessons I've learned in this. I wasn't properly prepared. I had sort of a naive approach to casting. It worked out really well. I got very, very lucky. But I now have a whole different respect for the process of casting. I will approach it much differently and hope I get as lucky. I have this real romance with Italian neo-realist cinema. It's the cinema where they often use non-actors and long takes. We study this in film school, but I really, really love Italian neo-realist cinema, and so often the directors chose non-actors. And so I had this sort of romantic ideal. I can use non-actors, and you can to a degree, but there has to be sort of a fundamental talent or ability there to begin with, and not everyone has it. Not everyone has it. So I needed to be a little more careful in that approach. Language was also something I didn't take enough pains to be sure of. When you cast someone, they're speaking English, but they're going to have to speak Malay or Tamil or Chinese. You have to be really careful, and I probably should have had language consultants with me that I talked with and explained what I needed to help me with the casting as well as the shooting. We shot beginning in late November of 2006. We shot for 3 weeks. And then we had a cut done in early 2007, and I wasn't really that happy with it. It was okay, and I liked it, but as I started watching, I started seeing some difficulties with it, and then I started to show it. I showed it to Malay people, to Indian people, and to Chinese people, because I wanted to get their perspective on the language. And And it turned out that there definitely needed to be some shots, because what sounded okay to my ears, and again, this is where I should have had a language consultant full-time, somebody who wasn't close to the actors, who could speak very directly about the performance and the cadence of the speech and so forth. But I had to, because of the consistency of the performance and the style of the acting, I had to replace one of the actors. So the reshoots didn't take a long time. It was, I think, maybe 4 full days, but they came with a lot of preparation. And again, you know, I had to assemble a fairly significant crew to get everything done. Then there were re-edits, and I took a lot of time. My final cut, my more or less final offline cut, was in October of 2007. Like, that's almost a year now. And then from there I had to go to Cantana, and because, you know, if you're going to cut a negative, you pretty much have to do it outside of Singapore. I have 2 kids, so I couldn't just disappear for 6 months, which I would have, you know, or 3 months. So it was a lot of back and forth, and so it's been, you know, almost 2 years since we shot it. But that being said, I'm glad I took the time. I just hope people like it. That's really what I want. They like it, or at least they're motivated to think about it or talk about it. But I think what would really please me is if it challenged people to examine their own belief systems when they think about the characters in the film.